There are a lot fewer two-parent families.
What's worth more, a dollar today or a dollar tomorrow?
Almost nobody gets out of love alive.
Prisoners' rights is out of sight, out of mind.
Is your brain on God?
You ain't ready to
There
apply.
are discussions
How
as
they thought
black families we have to have them.
What's worth more, a dollar today or a dollar tomorrow? What's worth more, a dollar today or a
Welcome, folks, to Reality Gurus, the show where we take a commonsensical approach to issues through complex conversation. I'm your host, Cleve, and we're going to get into bail reform in the United States. I don't know if you guys saw in the news recently, Jay-Z actually donated $3 million to the cause of a company named Promise, who has an application that's supposed to streamline the whole bail situation in the United States. A lot of people think it's a good idea from the surface, but you know, here at the Reality Gurus, we get into everything, and I got some people here to help me out with that. Of course, you know, I got my man DB. Go ahead and talk to the people, brother.
What's going on, people? Hope everybody feeling good today.
You know, we got my man Ray over here. You know, he's a part of the family, so he needs no introduction. But Ray, go ahead. You got something you want to say to the people?
Good afternoon, folks. There's chaos behind me because of this construction, so pardon me if you see it.
Of course, last but not least, another familiar face, star of the up and coming podcast on YouTube, Tia Has Time. Miss Tia, welcome back to Reality Gurus.
Hey. I just want to say Wakanda forever.
Be careful with that one.
I figured I was going to piss somebody off.
All right. You know, so here's the situation now. Promise, they have this application supposed to, I guess, hopefully straighten out the situation with the bail situation here in the United States, where I don't know, all of the numbers, but maybe upwards of 60% of the people who are in jail are awaiting trial in jail because they can't afford to post bail. I think with some of the studies, they stated that a state actually is, it costs them about $130 to $160 a day to actually support, someone who's incarcerated. And Promise apparently has this system where it would cost the state maybe $17 or something like that daily. So, everybody here, let me go ahead and start, feeling you guys out, see what's going on. So let's start with Ray. Ray, what do you feel about this overall situation?
I just wanted to correct something you said. Jay didn't donate $3 million. What happened is that when these corporations, when they begin raising capital, when anyone has an idea for a startup, you have to go through rounds of investing. You have a round, a B round, and a C round sometimes. So you got multiple rounds, and on every round is about raising funds. So on the first round of investing, Jay-Z, Rock Nation participated.
I got you.
They participated in the first. In the first round, it was the first round of investing happens to be led by a company named First Round Capital. First Round Capital is named such because that's what they do. They get in on this. They call it seed funding. So they come in on the ground level at the first round. So they led the round. Jay, in this article, happens to be the face man. It gives people, it makes it more attractive. Just like when they use his face for Barclays,
less than 1%.
What, 1.5%, less than 1%, but he was the face man for it. So it's the same thing here again. He's in on the first round, and he participated in the first round, and the first round was a total raise of 3 million, 3.1 million.
So real quick,
so I just wanted
before now, because now I want to make sure I'm fully understand. So the first round was 3 million. How much did Jay-Z or Rock Nation, how much did they invest in that round?
Right now, I've been looking for it. It's undisclosed right now. I have to go through something like Crunchbase and find out. When I find that out, I'm going to be searching while we're talking. But yeah, nevertheless, this startup called Promise, started by young sister Phaedra I want to pronounce her name right. Phaedra Ellis Lampkins. Right. Phaedra Ellis Lampkins. She's a social entrepreneur. And the article came across my phone. I was on the train on my way home from work, and I'm looking at this. And I stopped and I said, wait a minute. This is a problem for me. I'm looking at the language and I'm like, wait a minute. Something kept making me go back and open up the paragraphs and look at this thing. And I said, wait a minute. Why don't this feel right? So I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the article here. I'm gonna give you a quote.
Yeah, you know, we love these quotes, bro. Let's get
Quote. This is from the article directly. We are increasingly alarmed by the injustice in our criminal justice system. This is a statement from Jay-Z at some point.
Yeah, that's from his op-ed.
Okay.
They pulled up in his op-ed.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. We are increasingly alarmed by the injustice in our criminal justice system. Okay. Watch this. Money, time, and lives are wasted with the current policies. Say that again. Money, time, and lives are wasted. In other words, he didn't say lives, time, and money. Money, time, and lives. Let me move on. It's time. Here's my issue right here. It's time for an innovative and progressive technology that offers sustainable solutions to tough problems. Here's my problem, end quote. Here's my issue. When I have to struggle to find something about your statement that makes sense, that's what makes my bell go off. I had to struggle to find something in that statement that made sense to me. Now, it's time for an innovative and progressive technology that offers sustainable solutions to tough problems. It's time for an innovative and progressive.
Now, I'm sorry, that last bit, Jay said that, or is that a quote directly from Promise?
This is a quote from Jay.
Okay.
Or innovative and progressive technology that offers sustainable solutions to tough problems. Okay, listen. I'm not here to challenge Jay's sincerity. I'm not here for that. That's between him and God. He has to work out his own peace with that. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in something that we spoke about before, which was the Black celebrity as a class, not individually. The Black celebrity as a class is a problem for our life. They have to stay in their space. Like I said before, stick to whatever made you famous. Please go away. This situation with pretrial incarceration, I was there 20 years. This situation is devastating lives. Listen, it can't be fixed with an app. No, listen, why do we have the massive numbers of us locked up in these cages, pretrial incarceration? Because we can't afford the bail, right? Okay, fine. That's the last layer of it. How did we get there? Laws. In the various states, people write laws that determine what's a crime and how much time it gets. Laws. Government created this problem. Government has to be brought, we have to bring pressure on government to fix it. Private venture capitalists cannot fix this problem. They're not interested in fixing this problem, however good their intentions might be. But when you put up seed money, to go in on the first round of an investment, you're looking for a return on that investment. They call that ROI, I believe. You're looking for a return on investment. So if you really take this back, this is why we have to do our homework and understand how we got in this mess. Private capital began what's called mass incarceration in the first place. Private capital began that. The first prisons were slave ships, for us anyway. Mass incarceration began on the slave ships. After we left the plantations, it was private capital again who needed free labor. So they cooked up a scheme to mass incarcerate anonymous black men and women, descendants of slaves, walking along the road. Anywhere in one of the states of the South, they needed free labor in the mines. They needed free labor in the turpentine stills. So they walked along the road and they came upon us with fake documents that spelled out a crime that we hadn't committed. We couldn't say no. Our life is in these people's hands. So we end up in the mines working under, the conditions in those mines, the stories that come out of those mines. This is where you begin to see the beginnings of prison rape down in those mines. Down in those mines. This is what black men were doing to one another down in those holes. So my thing is, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, wait a minute. Private capital, first round. The partners who went in on this first round were called First Round Capital, Rock Nation, 8VC, and Capor Capital. I spent a little time looking into each one of these companies. And basically, here's what's happening based on what I've been able to see. Behind the camera, behind all of these, all of the hype, what's happening is that white capital is directing our lives. So we have to understand the impact that this is having. White capital. Jay is linked up with white capital. I'm not knocking him for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you what it is. He's linked up with white capital. He's in the room. He has access to white capital. And he's right here. In this case, he's going in on the first round, but I'm looking at how this article is written. This article is designed, is laid out to make you think, like you just said, Jay-Z donated $3 million. You see what I mean? So he's the face man that's going to attract attention to this app. And my question is, wait a minute. The problem begins with laws. Laws that determine, and policies, local policies, like in New York City, you have it, it's called a local law, LL, whatever. It might be the number of law. But local laws make it a crime to do X, Y, Z, and it gives you a sentence for the same. We have to go through government to fix these problems. I'm going to turn it over. But we have to go through government to fix these problems because they created. So in other words, let's say this launches and is successful. Guess what? The laws that created the problem are still on the books, unchallenged. We have to get to that part of it.
All right. You know what? I'm gonna reserve this question for you in a minute. Because now I want to make sure everybody gets a little piece of this. So Tia, let me bring this to you for a minute. Based on everything that we know, as far as the facts, the information we've seen about the whole situation, Promise, Jay-Z. Now we know that he didn't donate, or Rock Nation did not donate $3 million. I'm not even sure if that's the way it was read, but it probably was written in a way where, at first glance you can mistake that. But now knowing, and Ray presenting the idea that he's just a face, how do you feel about the whole situation now, the whole idea of the program?
No, I think that Ray made, several valid points. I agree with the majority of what you said. I have a few counterpoints as far as you said something to the effect of the bail issue is a result of the horrendous laws we're going to talk about New York State, so to speak, and that the laws need to be addressed. Realistically, if bail is to be addressed, it has to be replaced with something else. There's no way that they're going to abolish an entire system and say, okay, it's not going to be replaced. While I think that the Promise app has the ability to be, it looks like it's going to be problematic. I don't see a lot of the things that they want to do being able to do strictly through an act. For example, they're going to do intake and assessment to assess the risk and needs of each participant. They're going to develop a care plan, meaning, and I'm sure, Ray, with your background, about a care plan when somebody is released from prison and or jail. They're supposed to set up XYZ for you to do every day. A care kit that's going to provide individuals with the tools. They never specify what the tools are that they're going to provide the individual aside from information to help guide people through the program. A lot of the language is vague and it's coded. And unless you're familiar with like reform, prison work, it's sort of like it sounds great on the surface. And I think that's done on purpose. The article is written in a way to appeal to white America. You made a very good point, Ray, as far as Jay-Z having access to white capital. Realistically, they're not going to permit this dude from Marcy Projects, you know, even though he has money, he's still relatively considered new money, to come out and say, yeah, we want to get rid of bail. Instead, it's going to be, you know, coded language. We're reforming. It's a new innovative technology. So I do agree with that. But I don't want to knock it completely. I think it has the potential to be something great. Whether or not it's going to be is something that, you know,
so
is yet to be determined.
Ray says it stinks and doesn't.
I said it
Okay,
stinks.
so does it smell a little?
I said there's a problem.
Okay.
I mean, and I'm sorry to cut you off. As far as Ray made a very good point of saying, like, look, you know, you read this article and this is what you take away from it. I always say it's up to each and every person to do their own research. If you read that article, like I'm going to show you my notes. This is what I do. Promise. I read something and I look it up. Everybody doesn't do that. So if you read that article and that's what you took away from it and you're ignorant, that's sort of your own fault. In the same respect, it's up to people like us, you know, that are passionate about this to say, hey, wake up. This is what's actually going on. Whether or not other people that read that article took the next step. No, I can name 4 people and I'm not. Because I love them that read that and literally, thought the same thing, and the light bulb didn't go off, and that is scary. That's the problem as well.
Okay, so I won't say stink. I apologize, but it smells a little funny. You would say it smells a little funny, Ray? Something going on over there. It's not what it's all presented to be. Is that safe to say? Right.
When I look at the figures involved, it raises concern. When I look at J, my presence is charity, Z.
Oh, no, you did.
But when I saw J, my presence is charity, Z.
Yeah, say it again.
Huh?
So you said it again, Lord.
That's a direct quote from him.
Right.
That's a direct quote from him. That's what he said to Harry Belafonte. How do you say that to that man? He said that. And then
I take that personal because I met Harry Belafonte. He's awesome. That's horrible.
Listen, Harry Belafonte came from another country to come here and suffer. Are you kidding me? That man, listen. Anyway, when I see him paired up with Silicon Valley venture capitalists, I'm like, wait a minute. Why do I do that? Because I understand what my ancestors went through and what got us here. Or I understand something about what survived from their story, about what got us here. And it makes me, my ancestors tell me, be suspicious, boy, watch them.
But then also, I feel like that's horrible because we're more naturally suspicious towards our own.
Let me do this. Let me do this.
I
want to get Dane into here. So I'll say,
Yeah, Dane's just like,
all right. All right. The stinks part is out. I said, smell a little funny. Something is a little more to it, and you went into it. I said that to say this. So that's where you are. T is like, all right, I can see there needs to be some things on the surface that's questionable, but I don't want to throw out the old garbage or throw it out with the garbage until we first get into the whole thing. DB, what's your take on this, brother?
I actually reserve judgment only because I kind of feel in the same way that I feel like when it comes to especially the bail bond system, there's 2 aspects. There's one that does have to be fought systematically, where you got to fight the laws, you got to fight the system itself. But I also think about the immediate results from people who are affected by the bail system, but basically the ones who can't pay the bail, who can't get out of it. And I feel this maybe has the potential to actually do it. My problem comes when I actually look at Promise and look at some of the stuff that they they're talking about, especially when it comes to like the oversight and the supervision and the fact that they have going to have government clients. They're going to be a tracking system. There's going to be analysis and data, and all of these things are worrisome to me because all those things have always been used against the same people that they're trying to help. And I wonder a lot about that. So I feel there is a potential risk when it comes to that. But I kind of hold the same level of, I don't even want to use the word hope, but I have the same level where I have to see a little bit more, but I do have those same worries as everybody else. And at the end of the day, this is not really going to help with the overall change of the bail bond system. But
okay, all right. So
it has the opportunity, hopefully.
All right, so
I think it's something that would be used in tandem with the current bail system, especially you brought up the I can never say that word, monitoring. Sorry, I'm slow. For participants, it specifically says it's for participants who require a high level of supervision. So what does that mean? That means predicate felons. That means recidivists, people that, go in and out of the revolving door, which is how I don't know the figures, but I'm pretty sure it's about 60% of the population in Rikers Island right now. So that, takes about how many thousands of people off the table?
And I agree, but I also wonder about the oversight because since it's going to be I guess privatized in some way, that it might not have as much oversight as anything else. And I automatically even think about like the ALEC group, which I know they were actually headed towards reform when a lot of focus was being put on mass incarceration, and they were also doing a lot of things as well that had to do with that tracking. So I kind of still worry about that a little bit anyway.
Well, what about it worries you specifically? You mean like FBI and all of that other stuff, like facial recognition?
You know what I think
software?
about, and I don't know how this is linked, but I always think about and I'm gonna use it more as an analogy than anything else. But I don't like when the Voter Rights Act was changed a little bit. There was a part where in North Carolina, I think once they lost that federal oversight, they reached out to somebody and they asked for a report on certain things that could be seen as voter suppression and so forth. And they got that report, and then they ended up doing the same exact things in that report to create voter suppression. So to me, when it comes to any kind of information, when it comes to any kind of tracking, data analysis, especially with lack of oversight, especially when you have government clients, you have states who could pretty much still see that information, because one of the things they talk about is transparency. That is where my
so Ray,
the
so then
exact
all right, so
about
when
it,
you
I
hear
don't
them
know.
talk about
But, yeah.
the immediate effects of this type of an app or whatever, the possibility of it, would it be worth exploring, like even with all of the suspicion that you have with the way it looks right now, wouldn't it be worth exploring if we can provide an immediate need for these individuals who are in jail waiting trial or whatever simply because they can't afford a bail?
Listen, I think that in the situation that we're in, and the reality of the situation that we're in 2018, I think anyone who's willing to raise a hand and get to work on this, I encourage it. Wherever you're from, you could be an artist. You can be a graphic artist. And I've seen people come in to in the time that I was in the system, I saw Osborne Society. I saw.
Are you familiar?
Oh.
I
Sorry, I got
saw.
excited. I know them.
No, you know what I'm talking about. I saw Osborne. I saw over 20 years. I saw program after program come into the system and give hope to men who were looking for a way out. Maybe some of them have never learned how to explore another side of themselves. Living in the ghetto, certain options are just cut off from you. So someone came in, different programs come into the system and offer hope through different programs. I'm for all of that. What I'm saying is, as we move along, we should get better. As we move along, we should get more sophisticated. Can I say that word? As we move along, we should get more sophisticated. Why? Because the levels of attack against us are getting more and more sophisticated. We've gone from a point where you don't say, pardon my language here, you don't just say nigga, 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 nigga. What you say is zip code. What you say is school district. What you say is credit score. What you say is minimum deposit. The levels of attack are getting more and more sophisticated. So our awareness, our radar has to pick things up. And as I'm reading this article on the train, my radar went off. I'm like, here we go again. When I looked, I saw incoming, another black celebrity. Oh my God, these people are problems. Now, I want to go to something here. This article is written, the one that I'm reading was in TechCrunch. The article that I'm reading here, it's worded with quotes from Phaedra and Jay-Z. And the focus here seems to be on economic efficiency for counties. Okay. In not-for-profit language, I understand that when you try to incorporate, yes, you're identifying a gap in services. You're identifying a gap in your language. You're identifying a gap, and you're going to step in this gap and close that gap. I get that. But I'm looking at the motivation here and what I can glean from their motivation. I just saw Kamala Harris's name. Oh my God, that's a nightmare all its own. Anyway,
You got to tell me about that later.
I'm looking here and I'm saying to myself, I'm looking here and I'm saying, I'm seeing the focus here seems to be on saving counties money. That's a problem. It's an issue for me because what I know, what I've witnessed taking place behind these walls, man. When you talk about the experience of incarceration, you have to understand what this trauma does. I mean, come on, man. The things that I've had young people come up to me and tell me about, you know, sexual assault, and what I'm trying to do in my little tour, my little 8 hours to try to protect these guys from the logic of incarceration. We have to understand this. So for you to be talking about, for you to be phrasing this in terms of efficiency, I'm not going to say that it's a bad thing. I'm just going to question you. I have to question you. Like the trauma that these people are coming home with.
Here's the thing, right? So now we're talking about a company. Let's just say their motives are pure, right? So they're trying to make a difference from a level, right? They're not on the level of incarcerated people, right? They're on a different level, right? This is what I wanted to ask you, since you're talking about saving, you know, counties money and things like that. If I know that the only way that a county, a municipality, or a state or whatever is going to pay attention to any kind of this, like social programs or whatever, I have to make it clear to them that I can save you money. If we know that, right? If we know that, wouldn't we give some of these companies, even if they're coming from Silicon Valley, kind of the benefit of the doubt, simply just to get in or have the conversation? You have to first provide something that shows them you're going to save them money. Could we give them a break on that?
Absolutely. And it's only intelligent business. It's called incentivizing, right? It's incentivize it. Trust me. And I'm even willing to yield on that point. But I'm thinking it through. And again, I'm looking at the cast of characters that I'm seeing pop up in this article. Incoming. I'm telling you. Incoming. And I'm willing to yield on that point because we've done the not-for-profit.
Right.
We know that you got to write it a certain way. You have to write it a certain way. And we understand that. But there's something I want to talk about here. When I talk about models that inspire, real models that inspire, Brooklyn District Attorney Kenneth Thompson.
He's just shouting out everybody.
Listen, peace be on the soul of Brooklyn District Attorney Ken Thompson and his family and all his descendants forever, man. Let me tell you something. We met Kenneth Thompson. He invited us to a meeting, a community meeting with stakeholders. You know, all of the community leaders, clergy, different elected officials, law enforcement. We were there. This was May
Never told me this. Never told me this.
2016.
Okay. Interesting.
May 2016. May 2016. Yeah. I'm friends with one of his I'm friends with his community liaison, Shelton Jones. Shout out Shelton Jones, Brooklyn DA's office. He sent me an email. We worked on something together, an anti-violence project before. Now, he sent me an email. I came to the meeting. Kenneth Thompson's plan. Let's start with his approach. His approach was the cornerstone of his approach was the conviction review unit. Everyone's heard of that so far? Okay.
Mhm.
He went through the files. Cases, people have been in the prisons upstate rotting for 20 years. He's going through the files. No, you going home. You come home. After 20 years in, you mean to tell me all of these DAs have come? Well, I'm sorry, he took over for Charles Hines. So what he was trying to do was clean up the corruption of Charles Hines' office. Now that had to be addressed. So what he did was he said the only thing to do is go through the files, let these people out. They don't belong there. Until his death, he had let go 21 people. Now that's just one borough.
Wow.
Among 5. In one city, in one state. Now multiply what he did there times the 50 states, and how many people are in prison who don't belong there. Models that work. That's what inspires me. So that's one model that inspires. Why does it inspire? Because he's an actual person who influences. He's in the pipeline. The solutions to this are in the criminal justice pipeline. How do I know this? Because I worked at the very end of the pipeline. By the time you got to a corrections officer, you're looking at the most inconsequential person in the pipeline. I'm at the end of the line. This thing begins with corrupt cops, corrupt prosecutors, and corrupt judges. That's where this thing begins. What has to happen is that these people have to be voted out of office. Wherever you can, whoever's an elected official who's engaged in this behavior, they gotta go. They gotta go. So the problem begins in the pipeline. So now when I see Silicon Valley with a cast of certain people, the first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, they're really not instrumental in this because the pipeline is still intact. The pipeline is still intact. Okay, give them a shot. See what happens. I'm for that. Absolutely. But keep your eyes open. Because these people.
Yeah, I mean, at first glance, I was
these people
just,
are something,
man.
Especially
after I talked to you initially, I was, and I, was getting your point of view. Yeah, maybe Jay-Z just feels that need. He is the one that they point to when they want to, push something out and they need a celebrity. He's one of many, I should say. But again, I ask Dane. I mean, even with that being the case and the motives may not always be pure. Someone or incarcerated people, formerly incarcerated people. Matter of fact, before you're incarcerated, being able to benefit from a program like this to keep them out. Would it be worth just, exploring it and letting it, play itself out just because of the possibilities of it? Talk to me, Dane.
You asking me?
Because okay,
I kind of lost track of the question because I was thinking about that. Because when Ray was talking about that, I was thinking about that whole idea of a different model, and especially, when I was reading this and reading about Jade, it seemed like it does kind of sincerely seem a little bit like a topic that he's into, mainly because of the documentary that he did with Cleve Broader, that he did an op-ed about it and talking about trying to change the system. And then I think he gave some money to organizations to help bail out a few males on Father's Day, where it's something that he is interested in. But I thought about it also because in his op-ed, he mentioned people like Ruth Gilmore, who's about prison abolition, And I wonder if there's money going to other places that would be more beneficial, more than just Promise. You know what I mean? And I kind of think that there are other ways to play it than just creating a business aspect. And I kind of understand the business aspect from two levels, especially now that I'm thinking about it. One, there is the systematic stuff, like I said before, that we got to do. But I think in some ways, this is trying to focus on the individual when they come out of prison and to cut some of the recidivism and all of this, where it could be beneficial in that aspect.
Okay.
I have a
But
question.
it definitely has to be more. It definitely has to be more. It definitely has to be where, especially if somebody does have the means financially to do something, that there are other avenues that we have to attack besides just
No,
this.
it does.
Besides just that. And I don't know if that makes sense, because I have a lot of
it
thoughts
does, it
going
does.
under my
Go ahead.
head. So
What was your
I really
question?
apologize for that. What's going on?
The question that I have
Hmm.
is this: what happens when the funders don't see the return on investment?
Well,
What happens?
well, okay, well,
Party done.
but see, here's the thing.
Party
Yeah,
done.
See, here's the thing.
Party
This
done.
is where I
Here you
wanted
go.
the question
this
I'm
is
going to bring back when you first started. I wanted to. This is a perfect opportunity for me to put it out. Here's the tricky part about it. And, as far as I'm concerned, in order for them to be able to profit from this program, people need to continue getting in trouble and need something other than money to pay for bail, so they stay out of jail. So of course the cycle continues, right? But what are we talking about here? We're talking about individuals with, let's say, low-level drug crimes or whatever, who are now going to have to spend however many nights it is in a place where, and I've heard some stories about Rikers Island. Pretty sure if I sat down with you, you can give me thousands of them if you felt like sharing them. But some of the conditions are deplorable, right? And you're putting people in here amongst some really tough individuals, and it's merely because they can't afford however much the bail might be for this little situation. I don't talk about them a lot, just because I'm not into all of this extra drama stuff. But I saw an interview on the Breakfast Club the other day with Tekashi 6ix9ine. Anybody here familiar with Tekashi 6ix9ine? Dave, you familiar
Takashi.
with
Sorry,
Tekashi
I have to say his
6ix9ine?
name that way. Continue.
I'm
Okay.
familiar. I've seen him. Like, I don't know
Well,
shit about his
here's the
life.
thing, and this
I
is
don't
remember.
know his
Well, here's the
life.
thing, and this
I
is remember.
don't want to know shit about his
to
life.
you
But yeah,
before,
I
like
know who he's talking about.
a lot of times, people with opinions that are not popular. Sometimes people don't want to talk to them. Whatever. I listen to certain things because even listening to what you say just then, I took something from his interview. He talked about apparently when he was 18 years old, he was arrested for in connection with like a statutory rape kind of a situation. The way that the way it was put out and what he's admitted to, he was doing a video and there was a female in there underage, lied about her age, and she was in the video. Somewhere in that day or time frame, she and some other individuals, males that he was there with, there might have been some intercourse or whatever with them, not him specifically. And because he was there, he got hit with that particular charge.
Okay, that's a lie because in the deposition he clearly
Okay,
admits to
so
touching
I
her
just said he
vagina
said
and
intercourse
breast.
though.
But
So I
okay.
mean,
But
so I
okay.
mean, I didn't say that. Like I said, there's plenty more to it. Maybe some fondling or whatever, but he specifically said intercourse because the whole thing was about him being considered, put on the what do you call that? The sex offender right, and his response was
Sex
no, and they're
offender
trying to
registry.
figure out. So in the midst of all of that, my whole point was what I took from this is the one thing that he mentioned when people asked him when they asked him on the interview, were you convicted? No. So you pled guilty. He said, yeah, I actually did plead guilty. And they said, why? He said, because I was scared, man. I didn't have no money. Young kid from the hood. I got nothing. They talking about 15
Yeah.
years. And that's before I even attempt to go to trial. They said if I went to trial and I blew trial, it'd be a whole lot more than 15 years. So, and who knows what the bail was, right? But this kid was literally in that point, and then have law enforcement in the background, and I understand what's done, some of the strategies used in interrogation rooms and things like that. You got this kid, man, and I say kid, right? going through all of this, and he needs to make a decision, because he doesn't have a couple of dollars. He doesn't come from a situation where someone can put their house up and get him out. So he has to make that decision. So I wonder, man, like even with Dane, how you feel about him personally, or maybe you don't care at all. Think about that situation in and of itself. And if he wasn't a celebrity, we wouldn't even know about that.
No, I do. And that's why I say I think in some ways this focuses on the individual a little bit more. Again, I just don't know how it's going to transpire. I don't have a problem with that. When it comes down to those same situations that you talk about, the same situations where you're sitting there, you're waiting, you're broken down because you can't pay bail and you're stuck in prison just waiting for trial. I completely understand that, and I completely agree with it. If this can help that, I'm totally for it. And I think that is where this is probably focused more. But on another aspect I was talking about, to get rid of all of that period, you have to fight something. You have to fight it systematically as well. So when he mentions people like Wolf Gilmore, you need to also be doing more of that. People who are trying to fight it systematically as well. So you could do both, especially if you got money, that long, where you could do both. You know what I mean? That's what I was saying. I don't have any problem with that.
I feel like what we're all saying inadvertently is like the micro versus the macro, as far as micro being the immediate things like bail reform, and macro being the overall problematic nature of the criminal justice system. Something that Ray touched on that I thought was really poignant was realistically the people that are voted in office are the ones that are, upholding these laws. A lot of people don't realize, they don't think about it, that people that are incarcerated, except a specific amount of states, I forget which ones, they can't vote. They're disenfranchised upon release, and they're disenfranchised while they're serving time. So just imagine for a second, in an alternate universe, incarcerated individuals are permitted to vote. What the fuck would happen?
Yeah.
Nobody ever thinks about that. So that's something that has to be addressed. There was another point I wanted to make. Oh, as far as the other programs. So I work at Common Justice. That's in ATI. That's Alternative to Incarceration Program. And like Ray mentioned, there's Osborne. There's Fortune Society. There's Friends of the Island. I can go on for days. The issue with that is a lot of people don't want to put into work to create these programs. As far as that, I've written a proposal before. The shit is hard.
Right.
It's hard. There's a certain language that you have to use. You have to know the right people. So it's a lot easier to say, oh, you know what? You have an app. That's cool. That's trendy. I can just use that on my phone, as opposed to meeting with people, finding a space to work out of, creating relationships and communicating with people inside of the DA's office. And Ray, you've been in the Brooklyn DA's office specifically. If you don't know anybody in there, you are not getting spoken to at all. I agree that it would be better for more of these programs to exist, but we also need to be realistic. I've been doing social justice work for about almost 4 years now, and it was solely based off of, I took a class and the professor took a shine to me and she hooked me up, with an internship, and it started from there. But realistically, the people most affected by mass incarceration and by the bail issues are ignorant to how to begin the process at all, to help us. So I agree with everything Ray said, and Dane, you as well. But my response would be, where do we go from here? Because I don't want to downplay what Jay-Z is doing. It is very important, but it sounds like we're all saying like, okay, yeah, he's doing that, but it's not enough.
Funny you say
but
that,
it's like, at least he's doing something.
You mentioned micro, macro, and it immediately brought up an experience I had with CPR class, some years ago. And the scenario would be, there'd be one of these dummies on the floor, right? And they'll give you the scenario, tell you what's going on. This individual here, he was found unresponsive, broken leg visually, blood coming out of his ear, or I'm trying not being so graphic, but they're laying on the floor. So you get to the scene, and as first responder, the thing is, well, what do you do first? Like, what do you address first? So now you find out what's going on. Not breathing, broken arm, blood coming out of the ear, and stuff like that. What do you go to first? people say, oh, well, maybe we go ahead and wrap his arm up, and get his arm straightened out so, the bone's not sticking out. Or maybe we dab the ear so we can get the blood from the ear and stuff. And then, the instructor would say, well, what about his breathing? Right? If the motherfucker's arm is broken, right, and there's blood
Yeah.
coming out of his ear, right, that's all horrible stuff. But if he's not breathing, fixing his arm and wiping that blood's not gonna mean anything. So when I bring that up, this is where the debate always comes to, when you see someone doing something and the criticism comes or the support comes. I say, if I was that individual and I'm at this first responder thing, what am I going to first? Is it not a huge problem that individuals getting arrested for these low level drug offenses are having to spend time they shouldn't have to spend in jail waiting for a trial? So you got Jay-Z or a company out here that says, listen, yeah, we can make some money off this shit. There's some positive stuff that we can do as well. It's gonna hopefully reduce those numbers of individuals spending time in jail waiting for, trial. I think it's an interesting idea. I think it serves a purpose. Try not to focus too much on, the money aspect, because we always know, if people are going to put some money out there to do something like this, they're expecting something in return. So, I just go ahead, Tia, because I'm kind of wondering.
Yeah, because I feel like realistically, the first step would be I would love to live in a world where bail is abolished and something else that's not as problematic takes its place. But realistically, I think the first step would be to get rid of bail for lower level offenses. If you are indicted for homicide, murder, aggravated rape, anything above that. But some
Right.
kid that got picked up for a dime bag, like really? And these DAs will tell you, like, how they decide bail is take your highest number in your head and multiply it by 3. It's as simple as that. Like, they don't see the
Right.
black, brown,
Exactly.
and yellow bodies
Right.
as people. There's just another brick in the wall. So that's
And
the first step.
can I ask a question? Because since both of y'all are a little bit y'all both been involved in the incarceration system in some kind of way. How much does the insurance companies have to play with the bail system?
This is the point. You just took it right out of my head. Because the whole bail system is underwritten by insurance companies.
Don't even get me started on jail and prisons. You can go do 20 years in prison and get sent home with a fucking bill. Like,
right.
What?
It's underwritten by insurance companies. So
Wall Street, she's not playing.
And their
She's not
offshoots
joking.
are underwriting the whole thing because you can't. She's dead serious.
Yeah.
And the bill is from and it's from where?
Yeah.
And that is the money aspect that I'm worried about too. But yeah.
Because what happens is that every time a person, we used to when occasionally I would work in what's called the general office, and whenever a bail came through, I never really mastered the paperwork for this, but part of a person being released on bail is a surety, surety. When you talk about sureties, that's financial backing. There's an asset, there's some sort of collateral standing behind this person. There's an underwriter who has financed this person's release. Behind that surety bond, follow the money, you get back to Wall Street. That's what we're talking about here. So Dane, that question is right on point. That's what it is.
But okay, all right. So
that's exactly.
I hate to say it because you're gonna always find situations where
your whole shit up.
Where in this country, capitalism, if there's an opportunity to make some money off of it, somebody's gonna try it. Right? I just think instead of
Put it like this. First of all, I don't want to say this as a criticism because, like I said, I still reserve my judgment. I still want to go by that. At the same time, these are certain things that you have to put under a microscope because these are things that will either possibly be affected or affect the program. So these things you have to look at as a whole when it comes to talking about this startup.
I'm saying
because it's all connected. It's interconnected.
Just the motivation behind the program or the app or whatever. I'm just wondering if we lose sight of the potential benefits is what I'm saying. I try. we because we're focused so much on
I
because
don't.
remember, Dane, when back when we discussed the whole, I hate to bring this up, but back when we discussed the whole what was that going down in Charlottesville, Virginia, with the the demonstration, right? Like when
The
when I
Confederate
asked the
statue
question,
and so forth. Yeah.
like why are you here? Like why are you doing? That's the motivation part of it, and I was getting so wrapped up in to why the white people were there protesting. I didn't think about maybe it's genuine. You understand? I was so think or even the benefit of the.
I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off. Generally, when white people show up at
No,
black
no,
events,
and
I'm just naturally
let it be what
suspicious.
it
Maybe
is.
that's just because my
Let
upbringing.
it let it be what
But
it is.
I
But
don't
I
think
mean, I say
I
that
don't
to
think
say,
there's
but Dane
Okay.
anything
at
wrong
that
with
point
that.
made it.
Okay.
He had
Yeah.
a completely different view on it when we first were brought with the same information. So I agree with you, Tia, but
Yeah.
I'm saying to him that this is an example of me looking a little differently, not looking at the motivation as to why you here. First of all, let me first look at what you're talking about and see if there's any benefits before I just say
No, I agree, and you know what? And I'm going to even say, like, as far as by the time this come out, we're going to have the last episode about Byron Allen and about that conversation.
real
Somebody
quick. Are
said
you
it
familiar with Byron
that
Allen, Tia? Okay,
you
real
know
quick, give a little.
Mm-mm.
well basically about the lawsuit that he had against these communication companies to be included within it, so he could have his company go along with AT&T. I mean, long story short.
Oh,
Right,
okay, yeah, no.
right.
Greg had told the last episode before we
Yeah,
started recording. I
but
remember.
basically one of the conversations was that regardless of whatever his motivations may be, that
Correct.
this lawsuit could open up the door for everybody else. I kind of have that same feeling here. If this could open up the door to a bigger change, then that's fine. I'm saying though that there is a bigger change there. I just want to have that remembrance that this is a bigger problem than a startup would do. And I agree with everything.
Right.
I'm just saying that this is somebody doing something, and I commend it at the very highest of reverence. I commend it. It's to me, I'm just putting a focus on it. I don't want to say like I'm being judgmental of it fully. I'm just saying that when you have so many things that are at play, you have to look at all those things that are at play. That's the only thing that I have here. So I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, throw it out, that it's not going to do anything. It's quite possible to do, and I hope it does. I'm just saying that you just have to look at the whole scope, because there are things that you're going to have to crack at in order to
Give me a couple
actually,
thoughts.
break the shell. That's it.
I mean, I think you're supposed to be I'm going to say cautious. I don't want to say suspicious because that just has a bad connotation. For example, a lot of the events I go to for these nonprofit organizations, it's usually a white woman or a white man at the head, and they surround themselves with people of color. And every once in a while, I feel a way about it. I'm just like you're doing the work, but you're delegating the hard stuff to people of color. So it's like, at the same respect, yes, you're doing the work, and yes, you're, down with the cause and the struggle, but people of color are still doing the emotional labor. So I completely understand. It's just something that I feel when you see it, and if you know it's wrong, check it and always ask questions
Great.
about it, and don't
Final
take
thoughts, brother.
anything at face value.
Mhm.
So
Well, I'm thinking about solutions, right? And one of the solutions, and I'm just meeting the sister for the first time, but this sister here, Tia, she should be a government employee.
Right here.
I'm telling you, this is how this works. This is how this works. In other words, she shouldn't be having to scramble for foundation money to get this work done, when tax dollars should be funneled her way. This is the problem. Why is something that was created by government Why is it relegated to the NGOs, to the non-governmental organizations? This is a problem. Government created these problems. Government created poverty. Government created the ghettos. This is documented. It's not even anything that's imaginary. It's documented. Government created ghettos when there were none. Government segregated houses when people were living together, getting along. Federal government. Government fostered the conditions that created ghettos. So now we're going to talk about the end product of a ghetto. We're just going to focus on that? No. People like this sister here, she should be in a paid government role. That's number one. Number two, you're talking about potential benefits and what something can do. You were talking about a critical patient. I'm sorry, but when I walk into a surgery, into an operating room, somebody's laying there, bleeded out. That's not time to be like, well, let's try this. Well, what about if we, well, how about, what do you feel about this? No. We have to stop talking about this case. We have to stop talking about potential benefits. And what if this works? What if that works? We get into our history and understand people left us road maps. Dr. King died and left us a road map. Dr. King died. Let me change that. He didn't die. He was murdered. He was assassinated. Sorry. Peace be on Dr. King. Dr. King was murdered, was assassinated, and before he died, he didn't die before he realized, and he realized the permanence of government in our lives. What does that mean? He saw, after he had this dream about integration, and that dream cracked, and he threw it away, the end of his life, he realized this. He saw just how permanent and seemingly immovable government is as a force in our lives. And we have to understand these things. We have to understand that, because we want to talk about reforming the bail system. It's not a time to be talking about, oh, what works. There are young men who it's their first time and they're being raped. This is no time to be playing with, oh, will this work on them? No. We have to get real about who the culprits are. The culprits are our elected officials. And if you really want me to go in, the Democratic National Committee, they're the problem. They're the problem. People like Hillary Clinton, they're the problem. The Clinton family, they're a problem. We can go on. We can go on with this, but I'm not. But the bottom line is the situation has to be resolved. First on the list, these government officials who sanction this whole thing.
I'll say this, man. Dr. King and others like him definitely did leave the blueprint roadmap, but I think I feel comfortable in saying that they probably couldn't have predicted how strong, say, white supremacy would actually be later on in the future. And there's been, well, I'll say that to say, like, meaning like specifics, like specific tactics being used to impede descendants of slaves' progress. They couldn't imagine of the specific issues, like some of the things that we may be talking about now, like the bail issue. Let's just say maybe you thought it might be an issue, but not to this degree. So I think this is where these programs like this would be like these little band-aids, these fill-ins. And as much as we want to focus on the true problem, there's some bleeding going on that we may have to patch here and there on the road to getting these people to breathe completely. But folks, this was a great show. Check the comments for any of the stuff we talked about. Like, share, subscribe. Say goodbye to the family. Family, say goodbye to the people. Reality Gurus. Take care.